At 65, Troy Donahue revealed a shocking story about spending the night with two famous Hollywood actors, and things didn't go well at all. But wait, don't rush to judge. This isn't just a scandalous tale, it's a deep, heartfelt portrait of love, struggle, and buried secrets from Hollywood's golden age. So come along with me. Sit down, relax, and let me guide you through this story, a story not just about glamour, but about the hidden corners of a man's life. Picture this. You're living in the 1950s. Hollywood is a dazzling dream, with packed movie theaters and vibrant posters showcasing the biggest stars. Among them is a golden-haired, blue-eyed young man with a smile that melts the hearts of millions, Troy Donahue. But behind that perfect exterior was a complex man, caught between the pressures of fame, family expectations, and secrets he couldn't share. Today, we'll walk through his entire life, from his early days in New York to the heights of stardom, the dark years, and finally, a deeply moving redemption. This is the story of a man who lived, loved, and fought to find himself again. Troy Donahue, born Merle Johnson Jr., came into the world on January 27, 1936, in New York City. Imagine a boy growing up in a well-off but conflicted family. Troy's father was a high-ranking executive at General Motors, a strict, practical man who dreamed of a stable future for his son. He wanted Troy to pursue an office job, perhaps in the auto industry, where he'd spent his life building a career. But Troy's mother had a completely different dream. She was a stage actress who once longed to be a star, but her dreams had faded. Unable to achieve fame herself, she poured all her hopes into her son, encouraging him to pursue performing arts from a very young age. Can you feel that pressure? On one side, a father with pragmatic expectations. On the other, a mother with burning artistic dreams. And in the middle, Troy, a young man torn between two worlds, unsure which path was truly his. Troy grew up with a good education, attending prestigious schools. He studied journalism at Columbia University, a choice that seemed to align with his father's wishes. But Troy's heart wasn't in newspapers or articles. He was captivated by the stage lights, the movie screens, the idea of living in a world where emotions were larger than life. Hollywood was calling, and Troy couldn't resist. He left New York behind, abandoned his lectures at Columbia, and chased his own dream, or perhaps the dream his mother had planted in him. This is where a key figure enters Troy's life, Henry Wilson, a famous agent with a knack for spotting stars. Henry saw something in Merle Johnson Jr., a tall, handsome young man who looked like he'd stepped out of Greek mythology. He decided Merle needed a new name, one that would ring out and match Hollywood's glamour. And so, Troy Donahue was born. Can you see the transformation? From an ordinary New York boy, Troy became an icon, a name soon to be plastered on posters and magazine covers. Henry Wilson didn't just give Troy a name, he opened the door to fame. Then came the defining moment. In 1959, Warner Brothers cast Troy as the lead in A Summer Place, alongside actress Sandra Dee. This wasn't just a teenage love story, it was a cultural phenomenon. The image of Troy, with his romantic, sensitive charm, standing by the ocean, gazing at Sandra Dee with eyes full of emotion, drove audiences wild. The film was a massive success, raking in millions of dollars, and its theme song became a staple of pop culture. Almost overnight, Troy Donahue became the idol of millions of girls across America. Imagine being a teenage girl in the 50s, clutching a copy of Photoplay or Teen Beat with Troy's face on the cover. You'd daydream about him, write long handwritten letters to Warner Brothers, where Troy received thousands of fan letters every week. That was the peak of fame, but it was also the start of unimaginable pressures. In the early 1960s, Troy's career soared. He starred in a string of hit films like Parrish in 1961, Susan Slade in 1961, Rome Adventure in 1962, and Palm Springs Weekend in 1963. In these movies, Troy was always cast as the good, romantic guy, sometimes a bit melancholic, but always charming. That image perfectly matched Kennedy-era America, a time filled with optimism. Before the shadows of the Vietnam War and social upheaval loomed, Troy became a symbol of a generation. The guy every girl wanted to date and every guy wanted to be. He received more fan mail than most actors at Warner Brothers, and his name was everywhere, from photoplay to modern screen. But that glamour, as we'll see, didn't last forever. As the 1960s drew to a close, Hollywood began to change. Socially conscious films with complex, rebellious, and sometimes dark characters became the new trend. Stars like Troy, with their perfect looks and clean style, suddenly felt out of place. Studios wanted anti-heroes, characters with bold personalities who broke the rules. Troy, with his established image, didn't fit this new mold. His roles dwindled, and his star began to fade. Pause for a moment and think about this. Have you ever felt left behind when the world around you changes too fast? For Troy, it wasn't just his career, it was his identity. He struggled to find a place in an industry that no longer needed him, and the harder he tried, the deeper he sank into darkness. Alcohol became Troy's companion during these dark years. He started drinking heavily, as a way to escape the pressure, to forget his failures. His finances collapsed, and at times, Troy, the idol of millions, was homeless, living in his car, penniless. That's the flip side of fame, a story not everyone wants to hear, but needs to be told. Picture the contrast, from glamorous movie theaters where audiences once cheered his name, to cold nights in a car where he had only himself and memories of the past. It's a heartbreaking truth, but it's also what makes Troy's story so human and relatable. Amid these tough years, Troy's personal life was equally turbulent. He married 4 times, and each marriage left emotional scars. His first marriage, to actress Suzanne Pleshette, was a classic Hollywood love story. They met on the set of Rome Adventure in 1964, both rising stars. Their chemistry was electric, both on-screen and off. Just months later, they tied the knot, and the press dubbed them Hollywood's golden couple. But the marriage lasted only 9 months. The pressures of fame, combined with Troy's personal struggles, including his growing reliance on alcohol, tore them apart. Can you imagine it? A couple adored by the world, but behind closed doors, arguments, misunderstandings, and ultimately separation. Before Suzanne, Troy had dated Lily Cardell, a Swedish-American actress and model. That relationship ended in scandal when Lily sued Troy, alleging he had abused her during their engagement. The lawsuit drew media attention, and though it didn't lead to criminal charges, it severely damaged the good guy image the studios had crafted for Troy. Rumors of his instability began to spread, and the cracks in his perfect persona grew wider. Troy's second marriage was to actress Valerie Allen, who appeared in various TV shows and films in the 1960s. They married in 1966 at a time when Troy was trying to stabilize his life and career. At first, things seemed promising. Valerie was beautiful, talented, and appeared to be someone who could help Troy find balance. But behind closed doors, tensions quickly arose. Just 2 years later, in 1968, Valerie filed for divorce, citing cruel behavior. Though details weren't made public, it's clear that Troy's alcoholism and erratic behavior destroyed this relationship too. Do you see the pattern? Once again, Troy sought love but couldn't hold on to it. His third marriage, to Alma Sharp, was an attempt to find stability. Alma wasn't in show business, she was an executive secretary, a down-to-earth woman who lived outside the spotlight. They married in 1969, when Troy's career was already in decline. Alma offered him a normal life, something he craved amid years of chaos. But even that normalcy wasn't enough to save them. The marriage lasted 3 years, ending in divorce in 1972. Troy's friends said his alcoholism and struggle to adapt to life outside the limelight drove him and Alma apart. Troy's final marriage was to Vicki Taylor from 1979 to 1981. Little is known about Vicky. She remains a mysterious figure in Troy's story, and their relationship was evidently unstable. The marriage lasted just 2 years, and once again, Troy faced loneliness. 4 marriages, 4 failures. Can you feel Troy's pain? A man always searching for love, hoping for a home, but unable to escape his inner demons. But Troy's story isn't all darkness. In his final years, he found light, and those moments are truly touching. One of the most important people in this period was Jen Chow, a Chinese-American mezzo-soprano opera singer, known for her emotive voice and commanding stage presence. Jen entered Troy's life in his later years, after he'd endured so much loss. Their relationship wasn't formalized by marriage, but those close to them said Jen brought Troy the peace he'd long sought. Imagine it, a man who'd lived in chaos, who'd lost everything, finally finding a soulmate who understood and loved him unconditionally. Isn't that what we all long for at some point? Troy also had a major surprise in his life. He discovered he had a son, Sean, from a brief relationship in 1969. For years, Troy had no idea Sean existed. When they met, Sean was already grown, and their reunion gave Troy a sense of fulfillment. He'd often expressed regret about parts of his personal life, and meeting Sean was a chance to make amends, however late. Can you picture that moment? A father lost for so many years, finally finding his son. It's one of the most beautiful moments in Troy's story, a ray of light amid the dark years. Now, we come to the most shocking part of the story, the part the video's title hinted at. In the 1990s, as Hollywood began confronting its silent history regarding the LGBTQ community, Troy Donahue bravely shared a major secret. He revealed that, in his younger years, he'd had romantic relationships with 2 famous gay Hollywood actors, Anthony Perkins and Rock Hudson. These relationships were kept hidden because in the 1950s, being openly gay could not only ruin a career, but destroy a life. Imagine the context. Hollywood was a massive control machine where studios dictated everything, from how you dressed, to how you spoke, to who you were allowed to love. Troy and Anthony Perkins met at a Hollywood party in the late 1950s. Troy, with his Apollo-like looks, and Perkins, with his captivating sensitivity, were instantly drawn to each other. They had to meet in secret, at trusted friends' homes or driving to the coast at night, just to talk and listen to the waves. Troy once said of Perkins, there was a tenderness in him. He understood what it was like to live behind a mask. Can you feel the sadness in those words? A genuine love, rejected by the world, forced to stay hidden. With Rock Hudson, the story was different. Rock was the epitome of masculinity, a man America saw as perfect, tall, strong, always paired with beautiful actresses. But Troy revealed that, in private moments, they shared a deep understanding. Rock faced more pressure than anyone, Troy said. He was a bigger star than life itself. If he'd let it show, his entire world would have collapsed. Their moments together were brief but meaningful. It wasn't just love, it was empathy between 2 men forced to hide their true selves. They were men admired by America, but living in constant fear. These revelations weren't meant to shock or grab attention. Troy shared them with sincerity, as a way to reclaim a part of himself he'd buried for decades. He wasn't just telling his own story, he was speaking for a generation forced into silence. Anthony Perkins, Rock Hudson, and countless others. They all lived in fear of being exposed, judged, or destroyed. When Troy shared these stories, he wasn't just talking about love, but about the injustice of a system that forced people to live a lie. His words are a reminder that, behind the glamour, were real people with hearts longing to be loved and accepted. After years of battling addiction, financial ruin, and a fading career, Troy began to find himself again. He joined Alcoholics Anonymous, and with the support of those around him, he achieved sobriety. This was a major turning point, a testament to the power of willpower and determination. Troy didn't just overcome addiction, he found a new purpose in life. He started appearing again, though no longer as the star he once was. He took guest roles on TV shows like The Love Boat and Chips, and even had a humorous cameo in Crybaby in 1990, a John Waters film that made Troy part of a nostalgic nod to the 50s. Troy also became a familiar face at nostalgia conventions, where he met fans who'd grown up with his films. There, he didn't just sign autographs or pose for photos. He listened to fans' stories, people who said his movies had changed their lives or brought joy in their youth. Troy embraced these moments with humility and humor, always ready to laugh at himself. Can you see it? A man who'd been at the top, who'd lost everything, still holding on to warmth and gratitude for those who loved him. Finally, we reach the end of Troy's life, a sad but meaningful chapter. On August 30th, 2001, at his apartment in Santa Monica, California, Troy suffered a severe heart attack. He was rushed to St. John's Medical Center, a renowned hospital in the area where doctors fought to save him. They performed emergency surgery, opening an artery to restore blood flow. At first, things seemed hopeful. Friends and family were notified, and many held on to hope that Troy would pull through. But hours later, a second, more severe heart attack struck. Doctors decided to perform open-heart surgery, a complex procedure to reroute blood flow around blocked arteries. Despite the medical team's best efforts, Troy's body was too weakened by the 2 heart attacks and the major surgery. On September 2, 2001, Troy Donahue passed away at 65, surrounded by loved ones at the hospital. Troy's death was a heartbreaking moment, but also the end of a remarkable journey. From a young man torn between his parents' dreams, to a shining Hollywood star, to the depths of addiction and poverty, Troy lived a life that was far from easy. But he also rose again, rediscovered himself, and left a legacy not just of roles, but of courage to live authentically. He was a man who loved, hurt, failed, and ultimately found peace. When you think of Troy Donahue, I want you to remember him not just as a teen idol with golden hair and a charming smile, but as a human being, a man who faced his demons, fought society's prejudices, and found meaning in the simplest things: love, family, and sincerity. His story reminds us that behind every spotlight is a beating heart, with real dreams, fears, and desires. And perhaps the greatest lesson Troy leaves us is to live true to ourselves, no matter how the world tries to force us to hide. Before we close, let me share one final thought. Many of us, especially those who lived through the 50s and 60s years, might see ourselves in Troy's story. Maybe you've dreamed of a different life, faced pressure from family or society, or had to hide a part of who you are. Through his life, Troy Donahue reminds us that it's never too late to find yourself, to love, and to live authentically. He wasn't perfect, but he was real, and that's what makes him worth cherishing. Thank you for taking the time to listen to this story. If you enjoyed this video, please hit the like button, subscribe to the channel, and share your thoughts in the comments. What do you think of Troy Donahue? Was there a moment in his life that moved you? Is there a film of his you still remember? Let me know. I'd love to hear from you. And don't forget, we'll keep exploring more Hollywood stories in upcoming videos, stories of glamour, secrets, and the people who shaped history. See you in the next video.